some notes.
So do I.
You're dueling notes. I'm going to start with asking you a question from the book, but it picks up something you wrote about Anyone Can Whistle that really struck me. You said that you had sung the song Anyone Can Whistle at a benefit, and that ever since then, people feel that the song is a sort of disguised or not so disguised autobiography. And in the note that you write about that, you make a very interesting comment. You say that you aren't sure whether or not let me see, maybe just get the quote correctly. You said that you weren't sure that concern for how you're perceived had affected your work, how you were perceived had affected your work, but you also said that you'd be surprised if it hadn't. And I wanted to ask you to start out. Granted that you're not a repressed intellectual, like the guy who's the person singing Anyone Can Whistle. But do you feel that there's a way in which concern for how you're perceived has affected your work? Or another way to ask the question would be, I'm sorry, there is a question here. Is there Stephen Sondheim you sort of hope to create in your work? Is there a persona that your work creates? Are there issues that you've avoided?
I think what it is when people think that you are your work, you become a cliche. And I can't stand the idea that people, it's like saying, oh, lonely at the top, or all those cliches that people have about people, particularly in the performing arts. And the idea that I would put myself into a song, and that is me, is, I won't say it's insulting, but in some ways it's degrading. It reduces you to a form, to a cliche. And that's the thing that concerned me, that I discovered that people, as soon as they start to say, you see, that's who he is, that's what bothered me, that's all. As far as my own persona goes, as I've said many times, the only thing that bothers me is that people expect a lot from me because of the past. But otherwise, I mean, has anybody ever accused you of being one of the characters in your play? Accused?
Oh yeah, all the time.
And don't you find yourself thinking, wait a minute, no, that's not me. We bring parts of ourselves into everything we write. Well,
right.
That's not who we are.
Well, you sort of hope that people will be sophisticated enough to understand that it's
But they never are.
I think that the confusion is understandable because, I mean, you are hiding behind these characters. You've created these characters. They come from you. So.
But you are hiding behind the characters. One of the things I talk about in the book is that the songwriters in the generation before me, Cole Porter, Larry Hart, they did reveal themselves in their songs. I think you know who Cole Porter was from his songs. I think if you came into the room and started talking, you say, oh, that's Cole Porter. Whereas that guy comes in, oh, that's Larry Hart. But what we do is we write songs, I should say what I do, is write songs that have to do with characters, and it's not that I'm hiding behind them, but they are creations that have nothing and everything to do. And I'm sure those are the characters you create too.
So you've talked a certain amount about your early life, and a certain amount is known, your early childhood, but you speak about it fairly cursorily, and there's very little in your work that seems directly autobiographical, or actually nothing that seems that way. Has there ever been any temptation, like the relationship that you had with your mother, which was obviously very difficult?
No, it was difficult, but it wasn't interesting. It's that relationship that you have with a difficult parent, which is universal. No, it's never occurred to me to write about a subject. And I have to toss the ball back at you. Do you think of a subject before you write, or do you get an idea for a story? Don't you get an idea for a story and characters, and then it suggests a subject? Or do you say, okay, I'm going to write about anti-Semitism? I can't imagine sitting down and saying, I'm going to write about anti-Semitism. If you sit down and think of a story, and there's something that comes in that, sure. So everybody says, oh, you see, well, Gypsy is about this difficult mother. Well, hello, it was about a person that Arthur Lawrence read about and decided to write about. And that made me say, oh my goodness, it's about my mother. I can't wait to write about that. As a matter of fact, my mother on opening night said, you know, Steve, there are women like that.
I remember you making a speech at the American Academy when you got the gold medal. And I was incredibly moved by how sincerely you seem to feel that you, given the list of enormously august artists who had won this thing, that you were in some way sort of stepping out of your league, and no one else felt that. And I was wondering, when I was watching that, or watching you at that concert, and in reading the book, how do you manage to not become a monster of ego run amok? I mean, it's like, because you occupy a position that's virtually unique in American arts right now. There are a few other people like you, but you've achieved a degree of eminence and you're revered in a way, deservedly so, that few other artists in American life have attained. It must be. I wonder if it's an overwhelming struggle, or
no,
if it just
it's
doesn't.
not. First of all, the gold medal, which is the gold medal for music, the reason I was so modest about that, or if there is a reason, is that I have been tagged as a lyric writer so much of my life, and to have all the best composers in the United States who are members of that academy vote me the gold medal for music really meant something to me. And so that accounts for that modesty. The other thing is, I remember Nora Kay, the ballerina who was married to Herbie Ross, said about me, he has no idea who he is. No, I don't. I don't take an overview. Do you take an overview of yourself? Do you have any idea who you are, Tony? In terms of your reputation?
I feel like I actually have a fairly reasonable idea.
That doesn't make you arrogant or that terrible word conceited. That doesn't make you.
No, I mean I feel that I have talent, and I feel that I'm.
That's exactly the way I feel.
Lucky.
That's exactly what I feel.
And I've been in psychoanalysis since I was 17 years old. So I feel like I've learned to get a fairly balanced.
Well, that's pretty good. You know. But no, I'm like you. I don't think we take overviews of ourselves. I really don't. I really don't.
So I'll ask one last question then. I mean, okay, you'll get your chance. Hold on one second. So, I mean, I think that there's a great optimism in your work. I think that
I'm a romantic.
Do you feel optimistic about the country at this point, about the art, about the human race?
No, I don't. No, I do believe in the goodness of man, but I'm upset, as I think almost everybody here is, and worried. I don't know that good always triumphs. I don't know, but goodness does.
One thing that struck me about your book, Steve, was its very pedagogical impulse. It really is about teaching, and which is not, I didn't know that you had that side of you. Is that something that you've always felt, or does it feel something that as you've gotten older, you felt a responsibility about it? Is that something that's evolved with you? Because this is very much a teaching exercise.
My life has been saved, both emotionally and professionally, by teachers, starting with a Latin teacher when I was in prep school, and going through music teacher in college. That's why I majored in music, and then Oscar, and then all my collaborators. My life is, I've said it many times, teaching makes me tear up. As just as a word, it is the sacred profession.
And this book is
That's exactly why I'm so pleased to be an artist. It's all form of teaching.
And this book is a master class. It really is. Tony, do you feel the same impulse because you're a generation or so younger, or two? Do you as you get older, you feel more? Do you feel it now? What's your view of that?
An impulse to teach?
Yes.
I enjoy teaching a lot when I do it. I don't know how to teach playwriting. I mean, I think there's a real difference between, I think that poetry or lyric writing can be taught. I mean, you really can learn things from reading the book about, partly an attitude, which I suppose you could teach other playwrights, but also there's a mechanics and a specificity that I think can be taught. I've never been completely clear about what one teaches when one.
Yeah, but don't you agree that art is a form of teaching?
I think in a way.
It's passing on not just knowledge, or conveying, not just knowledge, but something about humanity. It's about presenting a point of view that will enlighten. That's a good word. Enlighten people.
Right. Well, I mean, yes, or at least confuse them in really salutary ways. And Brecht, who I know you have issues with. Well, we'll talk about that another time. But Brecht says that art doesn't really have to be able to teach anything other than how to move pleasurably, which I think is a.
He said that?
Yeah, he did.
I don't believe it.
He really?
I don't think he believed it either.
Oh, I do. No, we'll talk about it.
This question is for both of you, and that is, at whatever point in your respective careers that you realized you had a career, what surprised you the most about being a professional in this field?
What surprised? I guess I was just surprised that I got a show on. Seriously, I remember standing under the marquee in Philadelphia when West Side Story played there. First it was in Washington, but my name was on the marquee in Philadelphia. And I thought, hey, I've written a show. It wasn't so much on Broadway because I was in Philadelphia, but it was I've written a show. It proves it. What about you?
I think this is the same. I was a complete shock every day when I realized that somebody was going to pay me for writing something.
But also that you can go in and say, look, like I wrote that.
Look, I made it happen.
Look, I made it.
Yeah.
That's the name of the second volume.
Is that I was going to ask you that, so I have my question. So, and I can't wait for the second volume. I'm really
Me too.
tremendously excited.
Please join me in saying thank you to our host, Dr. Tony Kushner, Stephen Sondheim. Thank all of you. Good night.